Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I want to say thank you for tuning in. And I made a thing. Yes, I went ahead and searched Thingiverse for countless hours, trying to go ahead and get my hands on something simple yet effective that can go ahead and stack these spools in the factory spool holders from my Mark III MMU 2.0 for the 5 spool set. And I found this thing on Thingiverse, go figure. It is a spool holder that was used for the Mark. It was the gentleman designed it. I believe they're a gentleman, I'm assuming. Andreas, what was the name? Oh, Andreas zero, Andreas 073. And that's what it was. I'll put a link for that in the description as well as a link to my remix because I had to remix this. But basically, what this thing will do is instead of having the 5 spool holders sprayed out across the table, it'll allow you to stack them on top of each other, which I found very useful in my situation just because I am very much in the lacking of space department when it comes to my little makerspace area. So I went ahead and made this. When I first made it, I didn't do any changes to it. I just printed it up as is from Thingiverse using his files, and I printed it, put it together, found out that it does work, but there were some aspects of it that I had to change. One of the aspects was it was flimsy. It really wasn't a strong, sturdy setup that I would have liked to be able to hold the spools above each other. One of the aspects that was flimsy was the back brace or back carriage, however you want to call it. The original design was that he had just an X brace in the back. It was sides and then the letter X. It really wasn't strong enough or thick enough for me to warrant being able to use effectively to keep everything tight together to prevent what is essentially now a filament tower from kind of leaning from one side to the other. So I went ahead and started modifying his files and remixing them through Fusion 360. Even though they weren't Fusion 360 files to begin with, I did this whole mesh to brep operation in Fusion 360 so that I could go ahead and modify the files the way I needed to. I'll put a link for that video in order to import models into Fusion 360 and how to edit them in the description as well. I'll put it maybe somewhere up around here. I don't know, it'll pop up, who knows. But I did that. I did a mesh to brep in Fusion 360 so I could use Fusion 360 to modify the files the way I wanted to so that I can reinforce the areas that needed to be reinforced. Another area that printed out okay, well, I should say half printed out okay from the original design that I changed were the bottom clips that go over the bearings and clip over the sides of the part. For some odd reason, I don't know why, when I first sliced them, Slicer PE didn't like it. The areas that go over the bearings, which is this part here, was single extrusion width, and it didn't attach to most of the parts. So it just fell off as soon as I took them off the excuse me. So they fell off as soon as I took them off the build plate. Whatever, not that big of a deal. All I had to do was just make the pieces thicker, more sturdy and bulkier. And let's see, what else did I add? I also added a front crossbar, which wasn't part of the original design, to try to help with the sturdiness and keeping the filament spools upright, because I was looking at stacking these things 3 spools high. if not maybe 4 spools high, depending on my space allotment. So I definitely wanted to make sure that these things were, decently, sturdy enough to be able to hold and not just topple over when they start moving, if they start wiggling, or if the printer starts vibrating the table like it usually does. So pretty much I have all the pieces laid out here. I'm going to go ahead and assemble them. I'm still not quite done with designing this part yet, because I still have to reinforce the bolt holes, the tabs, because the tabs will still break on me, because there's two. I made these wider than in the original design, which made the gap wider. I'm slowly closing the gap on each time I print it, and I've almost got it to the point where it sits flush inside the body of the printed sides. And I also decided to change the layout of the holes on these sides, and just decided to go ahead and add my own phrase in these sides. Feed me more, because that's exactly what our printers want us to do. Continuously eat and eat and eat filament, and we love it. Absolutely love it. Our fat little printer's going away. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to assemble this. This was printed on actually both my units. As part of it, half of these parts were printed on my Prusa i3 Mark III MMU 2.0 in single color mode. The other half of the parts were printed on my recently upgraded Mark 2.5. I was about to call it the 2S, but it's the 2.5 with magnetic heat bed. And that's printed half the parts as well. All the parts came out, I think they came out beautiful. I love the way these things look. Can you guys see that? This particular filament I'm using is from Maker Geeks. I got a big old box in for Maker Geeks I bought the other day. I absolutely love some of their filaments, and they were grab bags, so I didn't know what I was getting. This was a pleasant surprise. I got 2 spools of the Crystal Series PLA, and this is the Crystal Series Red PLA, and I tell you, I absolutely love the way that this printed out. Let's see if you can basically see right through the part, and this is still, what did I run for layers? I ran 5 layers top, 5 layers bottom, 3 perimeters, and I want to say I did 15% infill, if not 20% infill. And I just absolutely love the way these things look. The sheen on them is fantastic, and you can see, I actually like the way that you can see the infill patterns through the sidewalls, even though I did have 3 layers of perimeters. You can still see the infill through the filament, because that is definitely some nice translucent filament. I also used the cubic, I can tell from actually looking at it, the cubic infill. I believe this one was rectilinear infill. Nope, that one's cubic as well. All right, so we'll go ahead and we will adjust you. Well, first let me get my reach over here, grab my screws and my screw gun. All right. Also, what I'm using for the screws are M3, and they vary by they're M3 by 12 and M3 by 20. Stainless, no, not stainless. That's regular steel screws. Mainly, I like using these because they're magnetic. The other ones I have, which are stainless steel, are not magnetic, and they are more of a pain in the butt for me to handle. The other thing I changed on this was that in the original design for the Mark II MMU 1.0, the Andreas 037, or sorry, I already forgot the last 3 digits, made these holes as in 2mm screw holes. And that was absolutely useless for me, since I don't have anything smaller than M3s. and I wasn't going to go out and try to buy M2s just for that reason. So what I did to see if M3s would work is I drilled out the holes bigger in the original model, and I found the M3s to work, and so yeah, that works perfectly fine. Alright, so the first thing we are going to do is, I can get my little logo right there, in JD1 3DP. We're going to go ahead and start setting this up. Let's see. Use you. Now, I did not use any type of threading tools. I just left them as M3 holes, because you really don't want to try to make M3 threads in your models, just because that can lead to a pretty decent size headache on trying to print threads that are, oh geez, extremely tiny. Let's go ahead and put this side on. See, I got to be careful with this one because, like I said, I have to close the gap. Mind the gap in for these uprights. For this backing, I got to mind the gap and close this gap just a little bit because there is a bit of a gap when you put everything together, and if you don't have the screws going through straight, you will break off the tabs, which I already did here, and I super glued it back together. Yay for super glue. Let's see. There we go. Let's see, can we see it in here? I can see a little bit right there. All right. So the screw goes all the way through. If you want to use longer screws and nuts, by all means, go ahead. Just be warned that all the screws have to go through straight, or else you will break the tabs off. Alright. So that's on. That's nice and sturdy. Like I said, the original design didn't have a front cross brace on it, so that even though the bottoms would be steady inside the holders, the top could still flex a little bit. So what I did is just I added a cross rod, if you want to call that. And because I like to go overkill, I'm using M3 by 20 screws. That way there's a decent amount of screw inside the rods for support. And this is one thing I like about this translucent filament, is you can actually see the screws, the screw placement. I don't know if you guys can see it on the camera, but you can actually see the screw placement through the plastic. So you know it's in there decent and it's got a good bite. Alright, that is all set. Let's see here. Now these will end up sliding over the bearing areas and clipping down over on the side of the stock plastic injection molded holders. Oh, it's the alarm clock. It's time for me to wake up. I gotta go to work in an hour. So these will just end up sliding into here. And that is also one thing I also thickened up as well. Because the original ones were a little bit sloppy. But I wanted to be able to have that nice, let's see if we can, here. Ah, that's very satisfying. That seriously is one of the most satisfying sounds in the world, is when you 3D print something that press fits together and you get that snap. Just because I want to hear it again. All right, that one didn't do it. That was unsatisfying. Nope, that one did it. And that one did it. And there we go. That is, oh, I love the way this filament looks. This is actually my first time seeing the filament printed. This is beautiful. I love it. All right, so let's go ahead and get this on, and I'll show you exactly how it is going to be set up. Let's turn you here to my messy maker space. That is filament number, that's going to end up being spool number 4. But we'll go ahead and make that on the bottom for now, because it's currently hooked up to my printer and I don't feel like uninstalling the filament. Oh, I kicked the camera. Alright, so here we go. Can't hear you. Alright. Vacuum up a little bit. Alright, so like I said, these just clip right over the bearing areas with a very satisfying click. And I'll just leave this out here for now so that you guys can see exactly how it goes. Alright, let's lower the camera a little bit. Joys of not being able to have multiple camera angles. Alright. Now we'll go ahead, place the holder on. There we go. Now as you can see, that is actually pretty nice and solid. That is a good solid holder. And where's my roll number 5? This is actually my roll number 5 that has the actual filament I used for the project in it. So maybe we'll just go over here, and all these do is they'll just slide up inside here on the injection molded parts, like so. And that's it. If you want to go ahead and make this even more sturdier, I have redesigned the top clips because he had some top solid clips that go ahead and put on the ones you're not stacking on top of. And you could always find a way to combine the two. But let's go ahead and set this back here. untangle my stuff. There we go. And let's see if I can give you guys a good shot on what this looks like. I'll go through the printer. No, we'll go over here. So as you can see, the spools, let's go ahead and stack on top of each other, and they take up a single footprint of what one spool would. Over here, I have them stacked 3 high, and I could probably even fit one more to make it a 4 high stack, but that's just kind of asking for it, because then I'd probably have to put a small brace up on the wall. At least what's nice about this is that you're still able to get the spools of filament in and out of each of the holder areas without disassembling anything. Well, they just squeeze right in there. So, on that note, I want to thank you guys. Oh, where are we? We there? We're good. All right, I want to thank you guys for watching. Thanks for tuning in again, as always. You guys mean a lot to me, and I'm glad that you go ahead and you take a look at my videos whenever you get a chance to. If you like the video, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so you know that when new videos come online, I will be doing my very damnedest to try to get you more content of what I make and more Fusion 360 models that I've been doing. If you guys want to see how I remodel these pieces in Fusion 360, go ahead and leave a comment below. Yeah, aside from that, it's basically, yeah, it's time for me to go to work. So thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. I will see you later. Much love. Adios.